Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday. I've probably already released a basics video, but there is a shorty coming at you. A little bit of a PSA. Those of you who attended my stream, you might have noticed on Wednesday that we did a little bit of bleep blooping. Bleep blooping. Said I wasn't going to be doing that, but I did it against 5 Dan on Foxy, and you might have noticed that it went rather well. For those of you who didn't, I'm going to go right through this very, very quickly. Essentially, we were playing as white. They played the mini Chinese, and I didn't care, and I just invaded the 3-3 point, at which point they played the old variation, which gave me Sente, so I took their large point to be able to use the wall, at which point they tried to respond to that, and I ignored them again to begin reducing, because that's kind of what you do when you start bleep looping. You kind of tend to treat your stones like they're garbage. You play really, really lightly. You just take any free territory and Sente that you can. Sounds more glorious than it is, but you may have noticed if you were there during the stream that I had an extreme aversion to what I was doing because I thought it was really, really too easy, and it seemed that I wasn't really... I was kind of just catching my opponent in a style of play that he had not really grown accustomed to yet, so it kind of felt like we were relying on tricks in order to win. Case in point here, he tries to extend from his corner because he didn't want me going towards it because, you know, there's peeps and stuff, so the wall here is going to be really useless. My playing here, he backs off because he doesn't really know, I guess, the Hane Jiseki, so we just get an enormous wall here, and from this point forward, where are we? 28 moves into the game, it's pretty much over, and black can't win. And the only reason why we did that is because he didn't know the modern variations to the upper right-hand Jiseki, and then he didn't know the variations to the lower right-hand Jiseki. So we essentially just tricked him with one Jiseki back after another. Didn't really get to see an example of the guy's strength, who was, you know, a nice even 5 Dan, and instead he just kind of crashed and burned immediately. However, my student encountered, was playing 2Q on IGS, and he was bleep blooping, he wasn't bleep blooping, he got bleep blooped, which brings us to the point of this particular episode. And that is the dangers of trying to bleep bloop someone and how it can snowball out of position extremely freaking quickly. He was playing as black in this particular game. You can see the dual 3-3 points. That's a dead giveaway. He got invaded, as you see. He blocked this way because he's noting that I've been advocating just to back off here and not having to worry about, like, well, if we want to develop here, we need to block this way because this way grants us, you know, the sequences that we really are looking for in terms of the good old Jiseki. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, or more point, this one. And then here, 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 here. See, we're getting the influence for the top because we know the right way to block, because we're not going to mess up the Jiseki, which is counterintuitive and blah, blah, blah. So instead of worrying about that crap, he wants to develop this way, just block this way, don't Hane develop the wall. Now, this seems pretty reasonable, however, it does bear some problems. He noted, for example, that if his opponent plays the Hane and just starts extending him up, he wasn't really happy with this particular result, and I can kind of see why. It's a little bit difficult to say this is worth the potential that we're giving away here, because it's not, in my opinion, because this kind of thing can still, like, maybe kind of even live. And if it does, you just lose the game immediately. End of story. You don't win from this board position, in my opinion. If this doesn't die, then you're going to resign. And this can, in fact, still live, so good luck. Now, that, admittedly, he should have extended here, because if we block, we can do whatever we want. We could play here, for example, and then turn, attack this later. We're getting some territory here. We've got great endgame. We've kept this oh so friggin' light. Oh, so nice. Only a few points in there. We can still grab extension. So we're still using the influence that we really want to use. So it's fantastic. Also why your opponent usually plays here, and then you can play this one and it's a little bit easier because your opponent giving you this line territory, that makes a lot of difference than if we were like pushed further back. This is actually quite huge, developing like, what is this, 10, 9, 8th line? Yeah, 8th line is pretty sexy. 8th line is pretty sexy. But he didn't know that. And because he didn't know that, his opponent had an option of turning the tables on him kind of quickly, which kind of felt bad. What hurts in this game, though, is he went down this branch, which again kind of takes us into a losing one, because we're not going to turn here. Instead, we're going to get into like a defense here, which makes white be able to defend here. The live is still possible back there, and so once again, black probably loses the game right from the opening, simply because we made a direction mistake, a very, very big direction mistake from this part of the board. Again, in my opinion. It's not over, we can extend again, but I think I know who I would rather be on this board. I think I would rather take white's position than black's at the moment. I picked this as a game to review because despite white getting a good result here, you'll notice something very interesting happen. My student is over-concentrated, absolutely, but notice this pressure to get territory, or this desire, rather, to get territory here, and how it swings drastically in my student's favor. Like, the minute we make the mistake of getting too much territory here, similar to the game I showed you just a second ago, I do believe, suddenly it's horribly in black's favor, because running along like this, pushing from behind, is just really, 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 really bad. And now all of the influence is now favored towards my opponent. But I can kind of see why he played that, because he's playing a territorial style. He knows he's playing a territorial style. He knows he's supposed to treat influence not with the respect it deserves. And so once you're in that mindset, it's kind of easy to make a whole bunch of mistakes. As a result, you have to be very, very aware that you do not want to do that. You are going to be giving your opponent some influence, that is true. Try to keep it to a minimum, then you can go back and reduce. That is very, very important. If we are in only the mindset of, territory is the only thing that we're interested in, doesn't matter how much influence our opponent gets, then we wind up in mindsets like this, where we are losing the game at move 34. Right now, black really can't lose this, because we have to, as white, reduce the entire rest of the board. You might say, how is that possible? He has the entire bottom of the board. Well, the problem there is this on the bottom isn't really worth very much. Like, here to here is just 19 points. But we don't really have that. We have here to here and then here to here. Why I use a number tool to show you that, I don't really know. But that's not really a lot of points when you're only getting 2 points per stone. To put it in context, go away. To put it in context, if black gets something similar to here, he'll have just as much territory as white made on the bottom, in which case all of the rest of black's territory is pure profit that white has to either reduce or make up, and that's a really, really big problem. And therein lies the trouble with the whole bleep bloop style of play. One bad choice of Jaceki, and the game swings drastically in someone else's favor. Like here, for example, this could drastically swing in white's favor if he takes advantage of all of these amazing forcing moves to develop an area for himself. Subsequently, this can remain pretty even if black manages to grab the extension from a nice strong wall, yada yada yada. If white panics and starts reducing too early, then once again it kind of swings in black's favor again, simply because this is a pretty strong result. We're getting influence in 2 directions. We've completely sealed in our opponent, and there's a bit of a weak group to attack, so that's fan-fricking-tastic. Same thing over here. we make a Joseki mistake, especially with the influence that we're already getting, especially with the low amount of territory that we have on the board. We just can't afford playing this slowly, and as a result, you can see how easy it is for black to simply win the game. The territory that is on board right now is more territory than white has anywhere on the field, so he's just looking at a huge loss for himself, and he might not really be certain as to why that is. From white perspective, you might say, well, I took the territory like I was supposed to, I broke into the middle, I still lost, how did that happen? And that kind of gives you a very good idea. So, interesting ideas, but when they go badly, they go bad immediately. It's not like, for example, something as simpler to understand, like, let's say a different opening, a different style of play. Let's go ahead and put moves here, and let's say here, we play the mini Chinese, for example. Even when the mini Chinese goes wrong because you maybe approached it immediately, and we just go and live here like so. Even this, for example, hasn't gone as badly as the other examples of where you go badly in those, and it will go badly for that player very harshly. That has a huge impact in the game for the remainder of it. Like, I would rather play white on this board, for example, than white, for example, on the board that we saw in the other variation. And that's just the nature of the severity of trying to steal your opponent's territory at the start of the game, the influence that's given away, and what happens if you give away too much influence, you try to reduce it too early, all of those good things. So there's a lot of pitfalls that you have to negotiate to be able to play this kind of style that makes it really, really tough for amateurs to really wrap their heads around it. So I do want to caution, if you have been having less than optimal experiences with these openings, with these new Joseki, the style of play, it's not just because you're that terrible, it's just because there are reasons why we haven't been playing this way. It's really, really tough, and it can be too much for a lot of people, even amateur specifically, or even professionals, sorry. Referencing again the Lee Chang-ho game that I went over where someone tried to bleep bloop him, and it didn't really go quite so well. The other pro was the defensive, trying to just constantly keep Lee's territory down over and over and over again, and you just saw how that just kept not really working out for him. So even professionals find it very, very difficult to sometimes adopt that kind of style of play. So, fair warning. Wanted to bring it to your attention, wanted to bring this game to your attention. Once again, that my student played, I thought it had a nice crystal clear examples at some of the dangers of the new stuff. If you've been enjoying them though, that's great. Continue to experiment with them. That's fine, fantastic. As long as you're enjoying Go, that's absolutely fine. But if you're not, then, don't beat yourself up over it, because there are a ton of pitfalls that you have to negotiate, like I said before, and it's easy to just go splat. Either way, hope you all continue enjoying the game. And as always, see you next time.